Hello, Tai Chi and qigong people. Dr. Andrew on Plitt here again with another live stream today. Obviously, things are happening a little earlier. My afternoon opened up a little bit, so I figured I would get this done now and save my evening for other things. So I've had quite a few comments come in since yesterday, so we have quite a bit to cover today, which is kind of fun and exciting. So I'm just going to jump right in. If you are new to this channel, I basically teach Tai Chi and Qigong videos here, or I post Tai Chi and Qigong videos here that teach Tai Chi and Qigong. And if you're looking for kind of a more organized layout of where to find all that material, you can go to andrewplitt.com, and that's AndrewPlitt.com, and kind of get a more logical layout of the videos that I have available rather than trying to find them on YouTube, which can be a little confusing for some people. I also have my videos grouped into playlists, so try to keep them grouped by topic. So maybe that will make it easier for some people, hopefully. So there's that. If you're interested in natural medicine, I also have drvonplitt.com, which is drvonplitt.com. And you can check that out if natural medicine is something that's interesting to you. So we can go ahead and jump into the comments and questions that have been left since the last time I did a video, which was last night. So let me pull this up. So the first one we are going to look at was left on the live stream I did yesterday. And this one's also by Nathan Cohens, who is a supporting member of this channel. Thank you, Nathan, for being a supporting member. Really appreciate you. And I really appreciate all the supporting members on this channel. Thank you all for your support. Let's see. Nathan says, thank you very much for sharing this information. So it looks like Nathan's understanding a lot of these principles is going into their second week of 20 minutes of standing post qigong daily. That's pretty awesome. Says, okay, so with all this training, he says, and I say he, I assume he with Nathan, I'll say they because I'm not positive. They assume, or that it's dawned on them, the standing pose structure is just that, a structure and not a pose. So as I'm now thinking of this structure as a means of maintaining balance in Taiji, I feel more locked into this structure as to build a foundation for the movement and sensitivity as I'm breathing from the lower belly. Now, as I mentioned, being locked in, this isn't stiff or dead energy. It's alignment of the shoulders, elbows, hips, knees, ankles. Great. So my body doesn't seem like it's just holding a pose now. It seems more like a solid structure. That's awesome. I hope this makes sense. It does make sense. That's really exciting to hear, Nathan. Congratulations on starting to build that sense of a lively structure, but well-maintained structure. I get what you're saying about it feeling locked into place, but not stiff. And it's one of those things that's kind of hard to describe, and one of those things that's kind of hard to say in words because it makes sense when you feel it, but it doesn't necessarily, it's not necessarily easy to explain. But I think you did a good job of saying that it's like being locked in, but not stiff. And that's something that is difficult in Tai Chi, especially when you're doing push hands. Being able to maintain a structure in a way that still allows you to move, still allows for the flexibility, the movement, the liveliness of the structure, but also being locked into that structure so you can't just be uprooted easily or your structure be compromised. It's a unique feel. And so that's awesome that you're starting to feel that in your training. Keep up the good work. Oh, and Nathan also says, I like a copy of the Mastering Tai Chi book. So I'm not sure if that's saying you want to get one or saying that you have one and you like it, but either way, if you don't have it, I encourage you to get one if that is within your means. It is a great book, a great resource, and I will show it again. I have it just sitting here next to my computer, so let me lift it up so you can see this one here. Very useful, very useful resource, excuse me. Hopefully Kermit's not back for this video. I'll undo my collar a little bit and see if that helps. So I'm not clearing my throat for the rest of this video. But yeah, it's a great book. It's a great resource for people who are studying Yang style Tai Chi. And if you want a copy of it, there is a link down in this video's description that you can use. It is an affiliate link, so it does help support me, this channel, what I do here. But you, of course, don't have to use that link to get it. I encourage you to get that book regardless of where you get it. Let's see. We're moving on to the next comment here. This one's from Adam K. Adam K left a comment on, I think it was another live stream a while back, something about the variation. No, excuse me. He left a comment on a video from the long form, the 108 form teaching series that I have out, asking about a variation in the movement. And I responded to it in a live stream, and it looks like Adam has another comment about it. So let's open this up here. So Adam says, if I'm not wrong, this variant of the form, or this variant is from YMAA. I did some research, and the oldest footage of the 108 form I found is from 1950. We can see on it Yang Chung Fu's student that performs moves the same way that the Yang family teaches today. Is it me? Does it mean YMAA 108 form is even older than Chung Fu's form? Or maybe Dr. Yang Ming did all the modifications. I'll be grateful for your answer. By the way, your performance is awesome. Okay, well, thank you for the questions and the comment, Adam. So this is the version of the 108 form that I teach is very similar to what, for those of you who are not familiar with YMAA, that is Yang's Martial Arts Association, I think, or Yang Ming's Martial Arts Association. And Dr. Yang Ming is a phenomenal martial artist, and he teaches Tai Chi as well as, I think he teaches, I know he has instruction information available for other internal martial arts. I don't remember if he teaches other martial arts as well. Internal martial arts, I know he does, I think it's White Crane and Shaolin and Yang Tai Chi. And so his version of the Yang 108 form is very similar to the one that I learned that's not like the standardized one that you see from Yang Chung Fu or his disciples. So they are very similar. The one that I learned, I did not learn from YMAA or Dr. Yang Ming. So there are differences in it. I have seen his videos. I have even, if you go to my andrewplitt.com website, I have a page that is like recommended products. And his book on the 108 form is one of the books that I recommend there because there's not a lot of resources that match as closely the way that I teach, the way that I learned that form as what he does. So that's a great resource if you're learning the 108 form the way that I teach it. His materials are an excellent resource too. There are differences, but I mean, that's kind of any teacher you go to, there's going to be differences from one to the next. So, yeah. So, I mean, valid observation, they are very similar. As far as it being an older form than Yang Chung Fu's, this is something like I am not certain of the origin of this form. And that's something that I wish when I had learned it, I had looked into. Of course, when I learned this one, I was much younger. And at that time, my kind of mindset was more, this is cool, I want to learn it, rather than, what's the history of this and, the lineage and all that sort of thing. So as far as it being older, I have a couple of thoughts on this. So when you look at the form, there are overt expressions of fadjing and there are more overt expressions of silk reeling, and then you would see in like Yang Chung Fu's form. So to me, that says it's potentially closer to the original source of the Yang style, which would be Chen style. And that's what Yang Lu Chan learned in Chen Village and then modified it into Yang style. And all the variations of Yang style that we have today are descendants of that work from Yang Lu Chan. And so, maybe it is an older form because it has those more overt expressions of fadjing and silk reeling. And maybe that was kind of removed more or hidden more or internalized more as time went on. And the form that we have as kind of the standard Yang Chung Fu form today is sort of a refined version of that in a way, or a more internalized version of that. The other thought that I have is when you look at Chen style, you have like the old frame and the new frame. And of course, the frames, like there's small frame and large frame, and it gets kind of convoluted, but just kind of what's referred to right now as old frame and new frame. You see that the old frame is the one that has the more internalized aspects of the silk rilling. And the new frame is was created by Chen Fa Ke, if I remember correctly. And that form is more overt in what it shows as far as the silk rilling and fadjing and all that. So it's interesting because when you look at Chen style, you go from a more internalized, those things are kept inside more, to a new frame where those things are expressed more. And depending on who you talk to, some people are like, they think that's a bad thing to show it more instead of keeping it internalized, but everyone has their opinions on things. So, um, and then, you look at the Yang style, and this form seems to be closer to the Chen style in that it's more overt in the expressions of silk rilling and more overt in the expressions of fadjing. And so did that come first because it's closer to those expressions in the Chen style, and then that was internalized into the Yang Cheng Fu version that we see and we know, and it's kind of the standard version today? Or is that something that the Yang Chung Fu version was kind of earlier, and then this was kind of an offshoot from someone along the way who, excuse me, wanted to express those internal aspects, kind of like Chen Fa did with Chen style. So it's an interesting question, an interesting thought. I don't have a good answer on it. It is something I've thought about, and you know, I I don't have a good answer for you. So interesting question, though. I'm glad you enjoyed the performance there, and yeah, so good chat. Thanks for the comment. Thanks for the questions. Let's see. I'm going to carry on to. So LEMHF left a comment or a question on one of my Tai Chi 24 form connecting moves videos. And they say, would it be possible for you to mirror image the facing moves? So I think there's two questions I could answer here. So I'll try to answer both of them so that I am more, it's more likely that I'll actually answer the question you're asking. So either you're asking, is it possible for me, like when I'm facing away from the camera, to do a mirror image so you can see what my hands are doing, which is something similar to what someone else asked? Or you're asking, for the movements where I'm facing the camera, can I do a mirror image so that when I say, move your left hand, it looks like I'm moving my right hand as if you're looking in a mirror. So it would be kind of a reflection. And so you can just mirror exactly what's going on the screen. So I'm going to answer both of those questions. The first one about the mirror image for moves that are facing away from the camera, I think that's a really interesting idea. I had a comment previously where someone asked if I could do forms when I demonstrate them and teach them in front of a mirror so that you could see what's going on when I'm with my hands when I'm facing away from the camera. And your question makes me think that it might be something I could do to actually film, like do a split screen, and half of the screen would be, the direction that I'm facing with the form, the direction that you would be facing, the other half would be a mirror image or a front image so you could see what the hands are doing. So that's something I can look into. I don't know if the video editing software that I'm using can do that, but I can try. It is free software because that's what is available to me with my current resources now. So I'll see what it can do. And then if your question is, can I do mirror image of the movements facing you so you can just kind of mirror what's on the screen? I have thought about doing this, and I might try making some videos along those lines where it is a mirror image. And if it looks like, when you're facing the screen, if you're doing, like if I'm doing this, so this is my left hand here, it would be your right hand that you're moving. So I would be saying, move your right hand, even though I'm moving my left hand. And that way you could just practice as if you're looking in a mirror. The reason I haven't done that so far is because I feel like it could potentially be very confusing because there are so many videos that are not mirrored. I would have to find a way to make it like super clear that it's like, okay, this is mirrored image now so that you can follow along more easily. Um, yeah, I'm gonna have to give that some thought to see how I could do that in the least confusing way possible. So give me some time to think about that. That's a really good question, really good observation. Thank you for that question. And I'll see what I can do. I'll see what kind of makes sense. Like I said, the reason I haven't done that before is just to avoid the risk of like making things more confusing. So we'll see. We'll see. Good question. Thank you for that question, LEMHF. All right, let's move on. Okay, I have another comment from another supporting member of this channel. This is one of our new supporting members that I gave a shout out to, I believe, in the last video or the video before. This is from Kirk Mills. So Kirk, thank you so much for being a supporting member. Really appreciate it. And again, really appreciate all you supporting members out there. Let's see. Kirk says, "Hi, Andrew. I sent you an email the other day. I would love to get your approval on the layout of a course I did in a PDF for your YouTube lessons, just for my personal use. I was hoping you could look it over and see if any changes need to be made. Thank you so much for what you do." Kirk Mills, supporting member. Well, thank you, Kirk, for this comment. And I took a look at the email. I'm going to pull it back up now while I'm talking. Yeah, so I took a look at the email and the layout. I really like the layout. You did a great job of setting everything up, structuring things. I think this is a great approach to keeping things organized. Let's see, one thing that I might add to it is, depending on the word editing software you're using, you might be able to add, instead of bullet points, like checkboxes. And then that way it would help you keep track of which videos you have completed. For those of you who can't see my screen, which is all of you, the way the document is formatted is basically grouped under, kind of like I have playlists, but it's grouped under like headings. And then there's videos in order that kind of go in that heading. So like Taiji Basics, there's the videos that I have for Taiji Basics 1 through 7, it looks like, and then the keeping your knees safe at the beginning of that. So it looks like it's kind of the playlist that I have, but laid out on like the links are laid out on a Word document. And I think this is a great way to keep track of what you're learning, because unless you are using YouTube's history function, so it can keep track of what videos you've watched, you can get lost. Like I had one student, one YouTube student, I guess I could say, who was learning the 108 form, and they mentioned that they kind of got lost as far as where they were in the form, because there's so many videos, so many movements to learn in that form. And so it was kind of hard for them to keep track of it. So this is actually a great idea, just putting together a list of all the videos and the links in document format. And yeah, I would just add little check boxes next to it. So after you learn a movement and you've watched that video, you can just check the box, and then you know where you are in the sequence of things. As far as the order of things, I think it's great. You're doing Taiji Basics, silk rilling, the basic stances and footwork, or the basic, footwork, balance and footwork. Stepping sets, 24 form. Applications for the 24 form, 10 form, 108 form. Bag drills, saber partner exercises, sword basics, Chen 27 form. I would add, if you're going to be doing the saber partner exercises, after the bag drills there on your list, I would add in the Tai Chi saber form. Those videos are also available. And I think it makes more sense to either learn the form and the partner exercises together, or learn the form first and then do the partner exercises. So that's something I would add in there. Otherwise, I think it's great. And for those of you who don't have a list like this, you can either make a list like this, or you can go to my website, andrewplitt.com. And like I said earlier in this video, like all the information, all the videos are laid out in a pretty logical format. There's a table of contents at the beginning of the pages, so you can see what's on that page and make it a little easier instead of having to scroll through the whole thing. So yeah, I think it's great. Kirk, thanks for sending that to me. Thanks for your work and putting all of that together. I think that would be a great way to practice, to keep track of what you've learned if you're learning on your own at home. And of course, I think it's super important to look for an instructor or people you can train with in person. I think in your email you said something along those lines. Let me pull it back up. Let's see. Okay, so finding a Taiji instructor near you has been difficult, but it seems like you have a training partner, so that's great. And yeah, if you have a training partner, that's great. That's very helpful because they can find things and point things out. As long as you're both kind of on the same page and both working toward the same goals, which is self-improvement, you can help each other kind of improve as you go. And I'm reminded of uh, a scripture. I'm Christian, raised in the church, and when I was in junior high and high school, the guys at my church in the youth group, we had a Bible study that we would do together, and we called it Metal Workers Club because there's a scripture that says, "As iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens the other." So basically, those people that you spend your time with, those who you are around, are the people who help hone you and help you develop into something more than you could be on your own. And I think that's something that is missed if you're doing Tai Chi solo and you're only working on your own, is that there's development that you won't find outside of partner training, or you won't find outside of having someone, um, an instructor that can help hone and refine what you're doing. So I'm glad you have someone to work with. That's really exciting. I like what you did as far as the layout. That's really exciting. Hopefully, you'll be able to find an instructor in the near future that you can work with in person. But it's great that you have someone to practice with. So kudos to you on that. Thank you for being a supporting member. Really appreciate that, and really appreciate the thought process and the effort that you put into making that list. Um, if you want to, like, I have no problem if you want to post that list somewhere so other people can make use of it. Um, if that's something that would be useful for people, you're welcome to do that. You have my permission. Um, so yeah, good work. Let's move on to the next comment here. So this one was left on one of my previous live Q&A sessions from a user named House Sun. Let's see. Thank you for your content. I'm practicing without a teacher, but have a background in martial arts. Just wanted your opinion on how I practice. I alternate with the set of 24 form with several standing postures or standing post postures. One set, then wuji, one set, then holding the ball, etc. Thoughts appreciated. Okay. So this is like a great way to train in a lot of ways. I had answered a question earlier about earlier, not in this video, but in previous videos, about how you incorporate standing post qigong and silk ruling exercises into your Tai Chi training, like your form training, etc. And the way that I'd presented it there was using those as, especially if you're doing morning training, those as kind of your warm up, your standing post, which is the least active, physically active thing, and then you transition into silk ruling as that kind of helps warm up the body and get you moving and get you in to your more moving mode, and then you transition into the form. But this is another great way of doing it, alternating doing the form. So you can do like one period of time of doing standing post or doing muji stance, like you're saying here, then doing the set, whichever form it is that you're practicing. It sounds like you're doing 24 form, then doing another standing post for a certain amount of time, and then doing another round of the Taiji 24 form or whatever form it is that you're practicing. That's a great way of incorporating standing post and form training. And the thing that I like about this is that you're starting with, well, it looks like you're starting with the form and then going to Uji. That's fine. I would probably start with a little bit of standing post, some posture standing post, and then do your first set just to kind of set that structure, that framework, that central equilibrium intention. Get that in your body, in your structure, and then do your form so that that can carry through the form. And then returning to another set of the standing post is great, I think, because you can see which things kind of started to let go as you were going through the moving practice. And this is not uncommon when you're doing Tai Chi. The longer the form is, the longer you're doing the form, um, your body starts to get a little tired. You'll start to get a little bit of like fatigue going on. And when those things happen, it's easy to like let things slip, to let your structure get a little sloppy, or to kind of lose the structure and the frame that you set up when you're doing your standing post. So finishing the set and then going back to standing post, whichever, you know, posture it is that you're holding in that standing post, allows you to kind of come back to that frame and see where things started to get maybe loose or things started to slip a little bit. And then after that, going back to the set, it's kind of like you've reset. Okay, you've recalibrated where your frame is, and then going back into the set. I think that is a much more useful way of practicing than if you were to go standing post, then just practice, the form multiple times and then wrap things up. So I think that's a great idea. One thing that I would encourage you to do as well, I mentioned in a previous live stream, is incorporating standing post into your form training. So, maybe once a week or so, if you don't do it more often, instead of doing standing post 24 form, standing post 24 form with different versions of postures for the standing post in between each set of the 24 form, use your 24 form as your standing post exercise. So you're going to start, in your Wuji stance. So there's your first bit of standing post. And then you're going to begin the form, begin Tai Chi. When your hands come down, you're going to pause there. And that's going to be your standing post posture, right? And then you're going to move on to the next movement. So you come in, embrace the moon, you go into parting horse's mane, and you're going to pause at the end of that first parting horse's mane. And that's going to be your standing post exercise. So the transition movements are your movement exercise. The postures are your standing post exercise. And that's something that you can incorporate into your training if you're wanting to, still have very beneficial training, but mix things up a little bit. With all the movements of the 24 form, you're going to have to kind of pay attention to the time that goes by and how much time you're spending in each posture, because that could take up a lot of time. So the first time you do that, I would say do it on a day when you have ample free time and not a lot of things that you're needing to get to, because that could end up rushing the practice toward the end. So anyway, House Sun, thank you so much for the comment. That was a very enjoyable rabbit trail to run down, I think. Hopefully you all felt the same. And I think you're doing great with your training. That pattern is an awesome way of training. So keep that up. And thank you for the comment. All right. Well, I'm going to check to see if there's any comments that I have missed since my last video. I'm not seeing any. No, I think I got through all of them. All right. Well, then I'm going to wrap this up. Oh, I see a comment here from someone watching right now. Elizabeth, thank you so much for the comment. Thank you for watching. Let's see. Hi. I'm building a Taiji class. How do you incorporate beginners? That's a great question. This is something that can be really difficult to do. And so I'll talk to you about some different ways that you can approach it. And you'll just have to see what works best based on your class size and kind of your approach to teaching. One kind of a very standard way of doing it, but you kind of have to have a lot of students already to do this, so it's not necessarily the easiest thing, is having different times for people that are at different levels of however you set up your curriculum. So it could be people who are working on the first half of the form that you're teaching. Those are like the beginner class. So they're spending more time in standing post. They're doing more work on that beginning half of the form that you're teaching. And that's your beginner class. So they come at a specific time. And so they're all working on similar things. Then you have a second time frame for the people who are on the second half of it, and a third time frame for people who are beyond that and they're ready to work on other things. So that's one way, but you have to have enough students available to make that feasible. If you have 3 students and they're all at different levels, it doesn't make sense to have 3, different time slots for that. Another way of doing it is and this is what I did the first time that I was teaching, and I'm not sure it was a great way of doing it, but I'll put it out there anyway in case it works well for your situation. It was basically everyone kind of worked at the level of the least experienced student in a way. So we would meet together as a group. We would basically all do the same thing. So it was always follow along. We would all do our warm-ups together. We would all do the form together. And if someone was brand new and they didn't really know the form, a lot of that was just kind of following along and mimicking movements. And sometimes we would just spend a lot of time on the movements that were newer to the newest person, and then just go through the whole form together. And whatever they didn't know, they could either sit out and watch for that part of it, or they could just kind of follow along, even if they didn't really know what they were doing, just to kind of get used to where things were going in the form. So that is great if you have really consistent students and if you don't have new students real frequently. The problem with that is that you really quickly either have a lot of students that have been there a while that are just like, can we move on now? Because new students keep coming in. Um, or you have students that are newer students who get kind of frustrated with the amount of moving on that's going on as a group without really giving them the time to work on stuff on their own, or to work on like the beginning stuff and focus on that. So it has its hurdles. It's not, I don't think, the best way of doing things, but it's one way of doing things, and it depends on your situation. The way that I was teaching when I was teaching in person most recently, which was many years ago now, is similar to how I learned in China. And I felt like it was probably the easiest thing to do. And that was basically everyone was working on what they were working on, right? So we would start the class together, we would do warm ups together. Um, for those who knew, like the 24 form, we would go through that together. And beginners, I would basically, before we went through the 24 form, I would give them something to do. And then we would go through the 24 form. Then I would check in on the new students and see how they were doing and work with them some more. And then after the 24 form, everyone would kind of, if they were working on something different, they would go off in a group of however many people were working on that thing, and they would work on that. And then I would just hop around the room and, okay, these people were working on movement, 5 of the 24 form. That's where they're at. So then I would go over there and I'd be like, okay, what are the questions? What are the problems you're having? I'd watch them go through it and be like, okay, work on this, work on that. Cool. I'll be back and I'll check on you in a little bit. Keep going. Jump over to the next group and kind of do that and just kind of hop around the room for the entire class. And then at the end, we would all cool down together. And one thing that I really liked about that is it allowed people to progress at their pace, right? So if someone like was at move 5 of the form, the 24 form, and they're in that move 5 group and they have it down and they're ready for move 6, maybe no one else in that little group is ready for move 6, but it's like, all right, well, you're ready for move 6, so I'm going to give that to you. And now you can go work with this group that's working on move 6, and we're going to keep working on move 5 over here. And the people who didn't feel ready to move on liked that because they could keep working at their pace. The people who were ready to move on can move on, and they like that because they could keep moving at their pace. The downside to that is that you don't have as much group activity together. And so you have a lot of like small groups or individuals working on different things in the same room, but it's not a whole lot of people doing the same things at the same time. And that has its positives and negatives as well. But there is something really nice about doing a Taiji class where everyone's kind of doing the same things, because that kind of builds kind of a more tight community feel as you're going through those things together. So those are the ways that I have tried. I'm sure there's other ways of doing it, but I think the way that worked the best for helping people move forward at their own pace was doing the individual groups or individuals. So, like if we go back to that example, everyone's at move 5, but someone's ready to go to move 6 and there's no one else working on move 6. Cool. So these people keep working on 5, and you take that person to the side and you're like, here's move 6, go. And they learn it and they practice it and they keep working on it until they're either ready for the next move or the next group catches up and then they're in a group again. So it can kind of split up the class quite a bit, but it kind of depends on people's preferences. And I think it's important, if you're going to do that, to have parts of the class that are all done together so that you can build that common experience with everyone. And it's not too split up. So anyway, I hope that helps. Congratulations on building your Taiji class. That's very exciting. And I hope you have many students and change many lives. So I hope that answer was helpful for you. Great. Glad it was helpful. All right, if there are no other questions or comments, I'm going to wrap this up. I will do one more check over on the video comments to see if anything new has come in. And if not, then we will call it a day. Wait for the computer to load. Excellent. Okay. Well, thank you all for watching. Thank you all for your interest in Tai Chi and Qigong and your enthusiasm about these things. Thank you for your support. And I will do another video soon. Not today. This is my video for today, but probably tomorrow I'll have another video coming at you. Wishing you all the best. Stay safe and healthy out there. And thanks for your enthusiasm and interest in Tai Chi and Qigong.